recently acquired from Milwaukee will start. Sean Bradley starting at center. Eric Dampier still a few weeks away with Howard, Stackhouse, and Jason Terry at the point. David Wesley and newly acquired Mike James starting in the backcourt with McGrady, Yao Ming, and Juwan Howard for the Rockets. Yao Ming since the All-Star break, and the Rockets have struggled. And Dirk Nowitzki, it's a sight the Mavericks don't want to see. No uniform, street clothes for a game.
Well, certainly you want him in street clothes. I know Don Nelson, he'd have the temptation of wanting to put him in at some point during this game.
The Mavericks, and obviously with Nowitzki, one of the best road teams in the NBA. They're 19-9, and they've been terrific on the road, but they've had to do it. Now without Nowitzki, Van Horn off the dribble. Bradley left wide open, and Bradley comes up short. Mavericks have done this all season long with a lot of different players who have been out with injuries in a lot of ways, Len. It's pretty impressive that they're 38-19 considering the injuries and all the new players they have.
But Don Nelson's known to be a juggler. He's been able to change lineups, be able to get guys in a position where they match up well, and he's so good in adapting his philosophy on the fly.
David Wesley knocks down the first shot. Meanwhile, the Rockets, as we said, they've been struggling. For their last 5 they've lost since the break, and part of the problem has been fourth quarter collapses. But overall, what do they need to turn it around?
Well, I think, again, it's going to be some toughness defensively. That means really digging in, being able to string together some stops down the stretch. You know, it's something, obviously, a coach, a defensive-minded coach like Jeff Van Gundy preaches. He's got to be able to get that to communicate it to his big man particularly.
Meanwhile, Yao picks up his first foul already. And we're just over a minute into the game as Terry will go to the free throw line. And that's a big topic of conversation with Jeff Van Gundy recently. Yao has had some foul trouble since the break. He's fouled out of 1 game, has racked up some early fouls and several others. But we're going to see a change from him from what a lot of coaches do. If he gets in 2 quick fouls, he's going to leave him in there.
Well, Yao's been around long enough. He's played, obviously, a long time in international basketball, obviously in this league in his 4th year, or his 3rd year, and he's got enough experience to learn how to play defense without fouling. That's what I meant by communicating the need to be able to put stops together, and it all begins with Yao staying in the game and in the middle.
And there's Mike James. This is only his 4th game since the trade. He's been putting up some terrific numbers shooting-wise. Bradley knocks it away, and Wesley banks it in. So David Wesley with 4 quick points.
Well, David Wesley is one of those guys that is tremendously underrated. Again, you can look to him to score points. You know, at his size, he really battles. Particularly, look at the post up by Stackhouse down there. Wesley's not giving up any room.
Wesley, they list as 6'1", and that's generous, but because of his strength, he's able to guard a lot of guys a lot bigger. Did a good job that time. And Juwan Howard can't hit. Stackhouse normally comes off the bench, one of the candidates for 6th man, but because of the injuries, not only to Nowitzki, but Michael Finley, the 2nd leading scorer. Finley's also out again. So Stackhouse getting the start. Shot clock down to 7. Trying to post up Wesley. And Howard with the rebound.
Well, that's one of the things Josh Howard brings. Long arms, tremendous effort inside the paint. You know, he does a lot of things that don't show up on the stats, and on the defensive end, he's a pretty terrific defender. I remember him back from his Wake Forest days as being good on the perimeter.
Meanwhile, Wesley with nice defense. He's done a good job on Stackhouse early. It's obvious they're looking to go to Stackhouse, but it was off his leg, and the Rockets get it back.
And the other side of it, David Wesley with a couple of buckets. That's the other way you stop a guy and at least limit him a little bit, is by making him work on the other end. Right now, Josh Howard on David Wesley.
McGrady, long, and ball tipped by Van Horn. Howard, if you talk to people around the Mavericks, coaching staff and players, he's been their 2nd best player besides Nowitzki. And another good defensive play. As Dallas turns it over again, they're one of the better teams in the NBA in terms of fewest turnovers, but back-to-back here. Nice entry pass to Yao. He blows the layup and then comes right back with a big smile.
And he gives a little hand signal that it slipped out of my hand. I think everyone was able to translate that one.
Terry, tough shot. Jason Terry certainly capable of picking up the slack offensively.
Well, Jason Terry's been the hottest shooter coming into this game. 25 of his last 45 field goal attempts. He's a guy that can give some offense and pick up the slack with Nowitzki on the bench.
3-second violation called against Yao Ming. So first turnover for Houston. The thing about Terry, and Don Nelson's been very happy with Terry's play, says that he's not pure point guard. That's not his natural position. Well, you got a guy shooting 51%, a lot of it from the perimeter. That's a terrific number. It certainly would be his career high.
Well, over the last 2 games, he's averaged 8 assists, so his offensive prowess has created opportunities to make other people better. When you're a point guard and you're a threat, it gives you an opportunity to beat people off the bounce, penetrate, kick.
Stackhouse misses again. Van Horn right there for the foul. And Keith Van Horn, who was acquired, one of the reasons Milwaukee gave him up was to clear some cap space to sign free agent to be Michael Redd. But for Dallas, he could be huge to help spell Dirk Nowitzki.
Well, he certainly can, because he's a big guy, shoots with range. He's got some of the same capabilities as Nowitzki, but at the end of the day, Van Horn just needs to acclimate himself with this Dallas Maverick system.
Well, one thing he'll fit in, he's been injured this year, so he'll fit in nicely with the Mavericks as Bradley with a nice little floater.
Mobility. Mobility.
Bradley will be 33 this month. It's his 12th year in the league, and still his size can alter a lot of things, but Don Nelson says, I don't know what I'm going to get from him from game to game. Nice hand in the face, but it's the face of a 7'6" guy.
And, you know, you sit there and you look at both of them at 7'6", and you wonder if they're ever accustomed to playing guys their size, looking their defender in the eye. Now, it doesn't happen very often.
You know, we speak of high shooting percentages. Yao is up to 55% right now in the NBA. He's been on a terrific tear shooting the ball. Van Horn stripped by Howard. Mavericks already with 3 turnovers. Wesley with a little fake to shake Stackhouse, but can't hit. And here comes Howard.
Well, one of the things Jeff Van Gundy mentioned to us yesterday was that his team has trouble with mobile big forwards, 4s. And Keith Van Horn, not quite Dirk Nowitzki, but he hasn't really been on track, because Juwan Howard doing a nice job.
Wesley with a little fake. And he's fouled by Van Horn going to the basket. See if they call it in the act of shooting as Van Horn picks up his first, but they say before the shot, so the Rockets will take it out.
Well, David Wesley again getting opportunity, using screens very nicely, and here a wide open shot, uses that backboard, which is a lost art. Get that 45-degree angle, you kick it up there, you're going to make more than you miss.
Wesley has played 30 games since being acquired from New Orleans as James misfires. John Howard trying to save it, but he stepped out of bounds. And Carroll Dawson here in Houston has done a terrific job acquiring some key veteran guys. It's Wesley. John Barry has been a huge addition. Of course, Bobby Sura during the offseason. Sura right now still out with complications from some back problems. And then, of course, the acquisition of Mike James. Some good veteran Van Gundy type of players, Len.
Yeah, I mean, the Bobby Sura, his absence really hurts the Rockets, and the toughness that he brings to the game. I mean, he backs down from no one, and he's got a lot of versatility that they miss. And speaking of versatility, again, that is the illustration of what the Mavericks expect from Keith Van Horn, the ability to stretch defenses.
And Jeff Van Gundy not happy, calls timeout. And he's talking to Steve Javie about something. Van Horn knocking down a couple of shots. He's 2 for 2 from the field. Sean Bradley getting the start with no Eric Dampier. Don Nelson said he doesn't know what he's going to get from him. So far, it's been okay. Mavericks by 3 on the road. Welcome back to Houston. Mavericks with a 3-point lead just past the midway point of the first. And we bring our man Jim Gray in.
Michael, as you guys have been talking about, the Rockets are trying to figure out just exactly who they are. Are they the team that won 8 in a row before the All-Star break, or are they the team that lost 4 of their last 5 since the All-Star break? And the schedule is just brutal now as they continue. Including Dallas today, they then have Seattle, Phoenix, and Sacramento. Those teams are 158 and 71. I talked to Yao Ming about it. He says he knows that most of it is on him. He has to be more consistent, and he has to figure out a way to stay out of foul trouble. So far, so good for Yao. He has had a problem in the last several games, Mike, getting 2 fouls early, then having to go to the bench. The plan today by Jeff Van Gundy and from now on is to keep him in the game, and he knows he has to stay in the game and get his minutes. Mike?
Well, Jimmy's got the 1 foul early on. As Mike James trying to operate, and I've shown a little bit of zone last time down the floor. James knocks it down. Tell you what, for a guy who just came to the team. He's shooting about 53% from the field.
Well, February 24th is when he got here, and he's been on a tear. Also averaging 23 points coming into today's game as a Houston Rocket.
McGrady the rebound, and that's what Jeff Van Gundy likes to see. Yao Ming coming out to contest that shot. A guy his size.
But if he comes out and contests the shot, though, his teammates have to have his back on the glass. And that's the thing. If you're going to come out, everybody else has the rebound. And Jeff Van Gundy told us in this bad stretch where they're 1-4, they've been out-rebounded in 4 games and tied in 1. So he's really concerned about his team's ability to compete on the glass.
Wesley with the left hand. Couldn't finish. Mavs playing hard down defensively. McGrady for 3.
And that was made by keeping the ball alive. James coming up with the offensive rebound. As we mentioned, that was the concern. But right now, the Rockets doing a nice job on the glass, getting a second chance opportunity.
That's where they miss Bobby Sur as well. One of the intangibles for Sur. He's a very good rebounding guard. Yao with the block shot. And the Rockets look to push.
David Wesley again, not giving up ground to Jerry Stackhouse on the post up.
Oh, pretty pass from James. And McGrady gives the Rockets a 4-point lead. 7 straight points now for Houston. And we've got a technical foul call on Jerry Stackhouse. Steve Javy, a veteran official with the technical.
Take a look at David Wesley again. He gives up a bunch of inches, but he takes away the position, makes it a more difficult shot for Stackhouse, and Yao comes over to help.
Wesley hits the technical free throw. He has been a big boost, David Wesley. The team since he arrived, 20-10. Jeff Van Gundy loves his defense, as you talked about. He's got the ability to hit shots, 3-pointers. He's a veteran with some playoff experience. At first, he was a little upset with the trade because he really had his family down there in New Orleans, but as Terry throws it away. But he's adjusted very well. He's one of those low-maintenance NBA players who just does a solid professional job every night out.
Well, in our interaction with him, he's a bright young man, very well spoken, very understanding of the business nature of this game, and he made the adjustment, and I think he's found a home here.
Wesley spots up, can't hit, but another offensive rebound taken away. Oh, and Howard just elbowed Jason Terry. Terry took it away, and I think they're going to call a technical on the elbow on Juwan Howard. He elbowed him right to the face. I think Howard trying to say it was inadvertent, but Terry took a real shot, and Howard, good sportsmanship, going to just touch Terry's hand there.
Well, it's hard for the official to read the intent. They can essentially only go by the actions that they see and interpret it. But the bottom line is that Juwan Howard, first of all, has got to grab possession and maintain possession, not allow the little guys to step in and strip.
No hard feelings between the two. Watch.
He just swings his arm out after giving up the ball. He doesn't have the ball. Actually, no reason why he should have swung that right arm out. I guess he didn't mean to hit him with an elbow, but maybe he meant to hit him.
I think so. Howard is not that type of player.
No, but you get agitated when the little guys are in there sniping around, and you want to make sure you send them a little message.
Spoken like a true big man. Nice move
Who's been stripped before.
Keith Van Horn, aggressive early, 3 for 4 from the field. This is exactly what they need from him today.
Right, and again, Jeff Van Gundy, and I'm emphasizing it again, says his team has trouble with mobile big forwards. And right now, Van Horn showing he can do it inside and out.
And defensively, which is certainly not his strength, Terry. Jason Terry knocks it down. So Terry, 2 for 2 from the field.
And Jason Terry, because of his shooting capability, if you're playing him, you can't give up that much space. You're going to have to force him to put it on the floor, penetrate, and if he's not the prototypical point guard, he's going to make some mistakes.
James, nice feed to Howard. The penetration setting that up. We got a lot of point guards with scorers mentality in this game, including James and Terry. James also a very good defender. Van Horn. Bradley trying to keep it alive, and Yao comes down with it. Pretty good pace to this one. Howard spinning. Blocked by Bradley, but a goaltend. Bradley doesn't like the call, but that one on the way down.
And Bradley actually got there a little bit too late, trailing the play. You know, when you get your guy, Keith Van Horn, down low, isolated. Bradley has to come over and help because Yao Ming was on the other end of the floor getting up after hitting the deck on the rebound.
There you see Marquise Daniels in the game. Daniels has been bothered by a lot of injuries this year. Misses on that one. And Yao with his 3rd rebound. Wesley.
Boy, Tracy McGrady just content being the setup man as he's getting other people involved.
And a foul call on Van Horn. That's 2 on Van Horn, which could be a problem. Again, they're already shorthanded with no Nowitzki and no Finley. But Van Horn getting it done on the offensive end. Keith Van Horn getting the start. Still getting acclimated to life as a Dallas Maverick at both ends of the floor. Houston Rockets leading by 4. They've made a lot of changes this season, even during the season, including the acquisition of David Wesley back in December. And Wesley said one of the keys has been it's very easy to play for Jeff Van Gundy.
I know I'm standing on camera and, the natural thing is to say, oh, I love my coach. But, John Barry and I've really talked about enjoying playing for him, his attention to detail, his directness about, what he wants, how he wants it done, his work ethic. I always describe him to my friends as the college student that stayed up all night and comes in with all the answers. Not necessarily saying that the way he does it is necessarily right or whatever, but he's definitely exhausted every possibility. And, this is what he feels. We go with it. And, he takes a lot of responsibility for right and wrong, what happens out on the court, and puts a lot of that pressure on his own shoulders. So, that when he comes to work, he better come to work because he's put his time in.
The veterans love to play for him. They know he's demanding, but again, they always feel that they're very prepared every time they step out on the floor.
Well, the best thing a professional athlete can ask of a coach is, what do you expect of me? And then I start working towards those goals. And, the coach, on the other hand, wants consistency. So if he continually and consistently communicates what he expects, he's going to get consistency from his team. Today, Jeff Van Gundy wanted his team to get a little more effective on the glass. And right now, Houston with 5 offensive rebounds, second chance opportunities, and 8 points in the low post. They're playing their power game pretty much as he would like.
They're +7 overall rebounding, and that's been the area since the break, or one of the areas that he's been upset with. Shot clock already down to 5. Wild floater inside from Howard. Shot clock did not reset. There's a 24-second violation. Ball never hit the rim. And you see Alan Henderson just in the game for the first time. Henderson and Jason Terry exchanging some kind of harsh words there. Meanwhile, Mutombo checks in for the first time for the Rockets. Henderson went in that trade to Milwaukee, but then they released him and they re-signed him. With a lot of salary cap for so many of these trades, as McGrady being attended to over on the Rocket bench, apparently got cut.
Well, Alan Henderson is a crowd favorite. They love his hustle. He's a young man. He averages 6 offensive rebounds per 48 minutes. So he's a guy that loves to work on the offensive glass, keeping balls alive and giving opportunities.
Stackhouse is going to come in. Ryan Bowen's going to come in as well. Howard will sit down. Now you look at Dallas, 38-19. Last year at this time, they were 37-20, so they're actually a game better. No one expected that because of the loss of Nash. Plus, they've made so many changes. They've had so many different injuries and guys out for extended periods. They have more defensive-minded players, Len, and they're a much better defensive team.
Well, absolutely, particularly on the perimeter with a guy like Josh Howard, and you got Marquise Daniels a bit with the long arms, able to make the perimeter shot a little more difficult.
Daniels, nice floater, and back to a 2-point game.
And still in this league, though, many times your best defense is an efficient offense. That keeps the other team back on their heels. And, Dirk Nowitzki, what he's been able to do this year, unfortunately he's not playing, has been tremendous. And I think that's the difference in what the Mavs have been able to do in compensating for the loss of Steve Nash.
Offensive rebound again for the Rockets, this time Dikembe Mutombo. So they've got 6 offensive boards here in the opening quarter. A terrific number. There's about a 3.5-second difference between shot and game clock.
Better hurry up.
Yep, he's down to 3. James fires away. Ball tipped. Mutombo tried to grab it, and they're going to go the other way with 1.4 remaining.
And I don't know if the coach is very happy. Your shot clock's running down. You got the ability to penetrate. That's always the tack you want to take when the shot clock's running down. Create instead of just settling for the jump shot. You can get that shot anytime.
Terry, now count if it goes. He was practicing those before the game, but obviously didn't practice them out. That one way off the mark. And that will end the first quarter. The Houston Rockets have dropped 4 of 5 since the All-Star break, but off to a good start, hitting the boards and getting some good balanced scoring. 1 quarter complete at the Toyota Center, and it's Houston by 2. Rockets leading the Mavericks by 2. Dallas trying to win without Dirk Nowitzki, who's with our Jim Gray.
All right, thank you very much, Mike. Dirk, let me ask you, you played pretty well in the fourth quarter the other night against the Lakers. What happened since then to your knee?
It was weird. I don't know. I felt great during the whole game, and that night my knee swelled up. I was in pain and wasn't really able to do much yesterday. It was still swollen, so I really wanted to play, and really, because we already have so much injury trouble, so I really wanted to play, but the doctor said no, and probably get an MRI tomorrow and get it reevaluated.
After you get it reevaluated, have you ever had anything quite like this, or is this totally something you're unfamiliar with?
It just came out of the blue. That's why I hope it's just a bruise. I remember falling on it during the game, so hopefully it's just a bruise, and I'll be back in action soon.
Mavericks have a better record at this point by 1 game than they did last year. With all of these injuries and without Steve Nash, how have you guys been able to accomplish this?
I think we've been very good on the road. At home we dropped a lot of games to teams we should have beat, but on the road we've been consistent so far. We're making plays down the stretch, and hopefully we get Dampier soon, back soon. He really brings a lot of defense to our team, and we were lacking a little defense over the last couple of weeks, so hopefully we can get back, and then I think we should be all right.
Dirk, Michael Finley told us the other night on ESPN, and Mark Cuban, your owner, concurred, that this is a better team without Steve Nash. There's a better chemistry. I know he was your guy. Would you agree with that?
I don't know. I can't really, honestly, I don't know if we're better. We'll see how far we can play in the playoffs. It's been hard to really say how far we can take this with all the injuries we had. So I don't really know where we're at this part. Chemistry-wise, I don't think we're better. He was a great locker room guy, obviously, and so the chemistry is fine, but it's obviously not better than it was.
Dirk, we appreciate your time and hope you feel better soon. Back to you, Mike.
All right, Jim, thank you. Some free throws coming up. Nowitzki and Steve Nash extremely close. They came to Dallas at the same time. Nash, when he was obtained with the Mavericks, and Nowitzki is a rookie. In fact, Nash was really very helpful to Nowitzki, who was wondering that first year if he was even ready for the NBA. So where Dirk Nowitzki's loyalties are going to lie.
Oh, absolutely. And you take a look at Dirk Nowitzki, sans the locks. Had to shave that hair off, I'm sure. You didn't have Steve Nash to consult.
I wouldn't consult Steve Nash on a hairstyle, though. Meanwhile, the NBA calendar. Coming up next on ABC, it's the Pistons and the Kings from Arco Arena. And then NBA TV Monday. The Grizzlies and the Clippers from LA at 10:30. And TNT Thursday, Minnesota, Miami, followed by the Lakers and these Mavericks in Dallas. Meanwhile, speaking to Jeff Van Gundy yesterday, he thinks Dirk Nowitzki is clearly the MVP of the league so far.
Well, in a great many respects, he's got an argument. I mean, you look at Nowitzki and what he's been able to accomplish. Only player in the league in the top 10 in scoring and rebounding, among the top 10 in double-doubles with 31. This is a guy, obviously, that teams have to game plan for and game plan seriously for every time they face.
Juwan Howard called for his second foul. Kind of lowered the shoulder that time. And Howard's going to sit down. Scott Padgett will check into the game. John Barry has also come in.
We can take a look right here. Again, there's just a little bit of contact, and we couldn't see the front side. Maybe, again, the use of the elbow. A tough call for Juwan Howard. Forces him to sit.
Officials for this afternoon, Steve Javie, David Jones, and Leroy Richardson. There's Dylan Harris, the rookie point guard, was the starter earlier, but he's had his ups and downs. Still, there's a world of potential. There's Marquise Daniels with a nice jumper.
That's another young man with a world of potential, Marquise Daniels. Last 5 games, averaging 16 points, 6 rebounds, and playing more minutes, 30 minutes. And again, a team that's missing their top scorer, they need a lot of guys to be able just to contribute a bit. You don't have to play outside of themselves, but contribute just a bit more than they normally do.
Harris with a quick shot. And that three-pointer won't go. And how often do you see, Len, when the star player for a team is out, as Wesley goes coast to coast, poor transition defense by the Mavericks. Star player is out. The other team kind of loses a little bit of the edge, and other guys really pick it up, and they come up with big victories.
Well, again, the Nowitzki problem here with Dallas just came up over the last day, and I'm sure Houston game planned for Dirk Nowitzki. And now that he's not here, your game plan out the window. And now you got to make a bit of adjustment, and maybe it didn't quite sink in.
Harris has to put it up, and he does get ironed. And Henderson the rebound. Shot clock was winding down. Boy, Harris shooting a lot early, and that'll negate that basket. An offensive foul on the rookie, and Don Nelson just shaking his head. Harris a little out of control early.
Well, going back to the point about the game plan not sinking in, you lose your edge. You know, you don't see Dirk Nowitzki out there, essentially you lose your edge. But Devin Harris, again, showing some signs that he's an NBA player. Right here, just a little bit out of control. Maybe could have pulled up, put a short jumper instead of trying to get in all the way. But the facility with the ball is the thing that impresses me the most about him, his ability to create his own shot.
Mutombo. Blocked from behind. Nice play from Daniels on the help defense. Nice defense from James that time. Josh Howard can't hit the three, and Barry will track it down. You know, in seeing talking to the players before the game when they were out on the court, when word spread out as James knocks down a three, when word got out that Nowitzki was probably not going to play, you saw the eyes widen on all the Rockets. Really, he's not playing?
Sign of relief. But they better not sleep on this team, particularly with a bunch of young guys out on the floor, very hungry, in Howard, Harris, and Daniels. Particularly in transition. This team on the floor right now for Dallas, very athletic.
And Stackhouse, a little late call, but a call nonetheless. Stackhouse wondering what took so long. He got knocked to the ground. Don Nelson has not been happy with his team's play lately. Meanwhile, the Rockets trying to turn things around as well. So who will step up for Dirk Nowitzki? Marquise Daniels, one of those giving it his best shot.
Seattle right there, and then the separation there, guys, before you get to Dallas and Sacramento, which you'll see against Detroit in Game 2 or a doubleheader. Mike and Lenny.
You know, Mike, when you look at the standings, as it's mascot day at the Toyota Center, they've got all different kinds of the NBA mascots putting on a show. But you look at Dallas in that spot in the Western Conference, and then you look at how many different players missed so many games. Daniels, of course, leading the way. Dampier's still a couple of weeks away. It's pretty impressive, plus the influx of all the new players.
Well, the key element is Dirk Nowitzki has only missed 2 games, and obviously he is extraordinarily important. And Michael Finley is a guy that we haven't spoken about, but, you know, he's missed a couple of games because of a calf injury. He averages 18 and 4, and obviously brings a tremendous amount of experience and ability to shoot beyond the arc. So he's a blow to the offense as well with him sitting on the bench. So 71 man games that have been missed by injuries for Dallas.
And playing in the Western Conference, plus playing, they've had 3 different starting point guards this year. Although the Rockets don't care about that, and McGrady knocks that down. Rockets have had 5 different starting point guards this year. McGrady, meanwhile, with 7 points, he has not looked to take over. Had some very big scoring games against the Mavericks this year. Foul on Mike James before the shot. So they'll take it out of bounds.
To put an exclamation point on that injury bug situation for Dallas, of their top 7 scorers, they've only played together 9 games this year, and only twice since December 11th. So that tells you something about the juggling job that Don Nelson's had to do, and really, it's also told you that guys have been able to step up.
Nelson said, I just want about 20 games with everybody to see what kind of team I have. He says, I have no idea what kind of team I have. Yao Ming back in the game grabs the rebound. He said they've been waiting to go through the hard times, and they really haven't had to go through it yet.
But last year was their best month, 10 and 3.
McGrady with a bad shot, but another offensive rebound. So 7 offensive boards for the Rockets. Barry right back to McGrady. And foul. That's one of the intangibles of a John Barry. Maybe had a shot for a three-pointer instead, right back inside. Smart play, and McGrady's able to draw the foul.
Now, maybe earlier in his career, he probably would have settled for that three-point shot because, you know, early you want to establish yourself, but being the veteran that he is now, you know, he recognizes that his goal is to win a championship, so he's going to do what it takes.
So McGrady to the line. NBA TV, your all-access channel for everything basketball every morning. Tune in to NBA TV Daily and NBA TV Fantasy Hoops for an in-depth recap of the exciting NBA highlights and fantasy implications. NBA TV all day, all night, all basketball. And another offensive rebound. Harris with the foul. So the Rockets will get a new 24 and take it out of bounds.
Dallas seems to have lost a little bit of focus right now. We saw several times down, not getting back in transition and covering the basket. This time off a free throw, no block out, the ball rims out. You know, pretty good hustle by the Rockets to keep it alive, but then they have really been competing on the boards and obviously listening to their coach's exhortation.
Boy, Henderson really battling Yao Ming down low. James gets inside, shot won't go, but a foul. And more free throws coming up. You look at Dallas, 33% shooting, 6 turnovers, -7 in rebounds. They're only down 5.
You got to pull it all together at some point. That's the beauty of this game. It's fast-paced enough where you just need that bit of a streak to get your rhythm, kick it back into gear.
So James able to put it in. As we mentioned, James acquired on February 24th. This is just his 4th game, 2nd straight year. He was acquired at the trading deadline. Last year went from Boston to Detroit in that Rasheed Wallace deal. And wound up winning a championship with the Detroit Pistons. Didn't re-sign with them because he got his first multi-year contract of his career. There's a reach-in foul, some free throws coming up. And he signed with Milwaukee, a 3-year, $10 million deal. He's got a wife and a couple of kids and said he needed to go with where the money was for the first time as opposed to staying with the Pistons. And then gets traded to the Rockets. And he has been very solid for him since that acquisition.
Well, you know, he's obviously the idol of envy of every journeyman that's ever played this game. He's got a ring.
No one else on the Rockets has one. He just picked up his 2nd foul. He was part of that bench for the Pistons last year, and an integral part, especially good defensively, where they really put the pressure on. As Daniels dribbles it off his leg. 7 turnovers now for the Mavericks. McGrady goes the other way. The hop step stripped with a foul. Daniels with the reach in.
You know, at the beginning of the telecast, we talked about Tracy McGrady being a complete package, and that's really emblematic of what he's able to do. The quickness of that first step, you know, at his size, at 6'7", 6'8", being able to put it on the floor and get into the paint that quickly, and then you present a major problem at 6'8" when you're coming up against some of the big men who are trying to defend.
You see McGrady with the acceleration. Said he deferred too much early as he rallies in the first. By the way, that last foul was on Howard, his first, and not Daniels. But it's an ongoing process, and let's face it, Jeff Van Gundy had to deal with a lot of the same things as Don Nelson. So many new players, and for McGrady and Yao Ming to learn how to play with each other. McGrady's never played with anyone of that size, and they still don't get on the ball enough.
Well, that's a tribute to their unselfishness. Again, they have that common goal in mind, and when you do that, you're able to sacrifice some of the personal things, some of the individual accomplishments for that common goal.
McGrady is averaging a career-high 6 assists per game. Meanwhile, the Rockets now in the penalty. Last foul called on Scott Padgett, so Josh Howard will shoot 2. Don Nelson loves Howard. Howard was that late first-round pick, number 29, back in 2003. Last pick of the first round out of Wake Forest. Surprised a lot of people, but you remember him from the college game.
Oh, absolutely, and the same versatility we see here. Ability to shoot the 3, the ability to post up smaller guards. Tremendous on the perimeter. I think he might have led the nation in block shots on the perimeter his senior year with those long arms.
He's getting a reputation as one of the best young defensive players in the league. Padgett, quick shot, and he got hit on the arm. That time he picks up his 2nd foul, and Padgett will shoot free throws.
Well, Josh Howard's complaining that he didn't touch him, and he may have got a hand in the guy's face. Scott Padgett really having to jerk his head back, but from this angle, it's difficult to see whether or not he actually touched him.
Rockets struggling from the line. They've missed 4 already. They're 6 of 10. Let's take a look.
Look at the long arms contesting right there. Yeah, it looks like he got him just a little bit on the side. But with those long arms, you kind of force the guy to blink when you're shooting the ball. Gets up on you so quickly.
So Howard sits now with his 2 fouls. Daniels, Terry, Van Horn, Bradley, and Stackhouse on the floor for Dallas. If you're just joining us, Dallas playing without Dirk Nowitzki and without Michael Finley. Nowitzki with a sore knee on a day-to-day basis. Van Horn operating against Paget. Tough shot, won't go. And Yao with another rebound, his 5th.
Well, Houston playing tremendous defense on the other end. Only approximately 33% for Dallas from the field. Only 3 assists and 7 turnovers. And then converting on the other end.
Mike James now with 7 points. And this is the largest lead. Terry can't hit. Daniels the offensive rebound. Mavericks really struggling trying to put the ball in the basket.
You know, here's the time where you wish you had a more consistent post presence. Somebody that you can throw the ball into, have the defense shift, and then be able to kick it out, get guys better shots. But Sean Bradley just not that guy.
Stackhouse, meanwhile, 0 for 6. As Terry taken away by Barry, but he threw it right to the Mavericks and Daniels.
Boy, Daniels saw Barry just at the last moment as Barry was tiptoeing behind him.
Terry trying to get on track. Stackhouse finding Bradley, and Sean Bradley can't hit it. The shooting woes continue. Barry, bad pass, and Van Horn with a rebound.
Perfect example of why you don't get up in the air and look to pass.
It's unbelievable how Dallas just can't find the rim. They're 28% from the field. And they got 23 points, and we've got just about 4.5 minutes remaining in the second. This is the second highest scoring team in the NBA. And again, no Nowitzki and no Finley as Yao Ming stepped out of bounds. Yeah, we'll have a timeout. Jeff Van Gundy said that Dirk Nowitzki was an MVP candidate. The Mavericks are finding out why, playing without him. As Mike James in Houston building a 10-point lead. Scorer and your leader in Dirk Nowitzki, you know it's going to be a struggle, but it has been downright ugly for the Mavericks offense.
Well, it certainly has, and without your real prototype point guard and without your leading scorer, and it's just take nothing away from Jason Terry, but he's just not adept at penetrating and creating. You got a lot of guys trying to create shots that really aren't accustomed to doing it, and hence the turnovers. You got people trying to look for guys, not really adept at finding people in the open floor.
That includes 2 for 13 in the second quarter. The Mavericks have only scored 5 points in the period. And again, only Phoenix scores more points per game. But this just shows you the value of Dirk Nowitzki and the kind of season he's had.
And Nowitzki's ability also to post up, to give his team a reliable post guy to help them in times when their offense isn't really clicking from the perimeter. But Sean Bradley, even at 7'6", that's just not his game.
McGrady's pass, he telegraphed it, the turnover. Although, you know what, Len, let's give some credit to the Rockets defense, which has been very strong.
Oh, it absolutely has. Again, they've been able to force guys to do things that they're not accustomed to doing. Force guys when they drive to give it up. They've covered the passing lanes. They've gotten the loose balls, and they've commanded the boards.
McGrady picks up his first, and Van Horn will go to the free throw line. Van Horn has been bothered by ankle tendonitis. Went a long stretch where he didn't play in Milwaukee. And then even when he came back, wasn't playing a lot of minutes. He's been bounced around the last couple of years, traded a wealth of talent, the consistency not always there.
When you average 17.5 points, 7 rebounds, and shoot pretty well from the field in this league, there's got to be something more. And some of it obviously has to do with the injury and the extended periods of time that he's not been on the floor. But if he can ever get himself healthy and get a couple of years consistently, we'll see the real Keith Van Horn.
The thing about him is he's still young. He's only 29 years old.
That's why I'm giving him some time. Got to get over that ankle injury. It doesn't get any better with age.
McGrady, foul on the pass, but they're in the penalty, so McGrady will go to the line as Sean Bradley picks up the foul. And that's his first.
And I also think, again, if you look at the case of Mike James, where you bounce around, all of a sudden you come to a system that seems to suit you well, get you opportunities that you can excel in. I think that Keith Van Horn has to find that. First couple of years in New Jersey, I thought he had that. And then there were some changes made there, and suddenly the system changed, and he was the man outside.
McGrady hits the first. McGrady now 11 points. You see that patch on his chin. For more on that, let's go to Jim.
Well, Mike, quick work by Keith Jones and the training and doctor staff. 6 stitches Tracy McGrady has received underneath his chin after taking that shot. Doesn't seem to be affecting his shot at the foul line or out here as he just gets his 12th point, but 6 stitches, Mike.
And he gives the Rockets their largest lead, 35-24. And I want to emphasize, this is a second quarter score. It is not the first quarter. Normally with the Mavericks, this would be the first quarter score. Darrell Armstrong with his first appearance of the afternoon. Van Horn left open, but can't connect. And out of bounds, it's still going to be Mavericks ball. They'll get a new 24. Josh Howard comes up limping after that play.
And that time the Rockets went to kind of a matchup zone. It's one of the better shots Dallas has been able to get. And we talk about Tracy McGrady and the injury. That's where he got the stitches. It looked as though just his shoulder prior to the shot.
Here's McGrady down the other end. And the lead up to 13.
Now, I don't think he's feeling those stitches one bit.
Mavericks need something offensively. Van Horn fouled by Padgett. Padgett doesn't like the call, but that's a good play for Van Horn to initiate the contact, and he'll go and shoot 2 free throws.
Again, it's the ball movement. When you're playing a matchup zone, you want to attack it somewhat like a man-to-man, but you want ball movement to stretch the zone. Then when the ball handler gets it, he can find gaps to penetrate in, or you get some open shots. But on the other end, again, just a lightning-quick transition basket by the Rockets, not known to be an absolute fast-breaking team, although of late, they've been scoring over 100 points.
Both teams right now missing free throws. Mavericks 6 for 12. The Rockets 8 for 13. And it has been a defensive-dominated first half. Some of it's good defense, some of it's poor shooting. That pass a little hard for Yao, who felt he was fouled. Terry is open. Lost it, but a reach-in foul again. And they call a foul on Tracy McGrady. That's his second. And Jason Terry will shoot 2. McGrady, the leading scorer in the game with 14 points. The Rockets defense dominating as Houston up by a dozen. Coming up at halftime, Jeff Van Gundy, 2 things he was worried about as we see next Sunday. We've got the Mavericks and the Timberwolves from Minneapolis. And then the Rockets and the Kings from Sacramento. Another NBA doubleheader on ABC next Sunday. Terry hitting the first free throw. But the 2 things that Jeff Van Gundy wanted to see his team, he wanted them to start rebounding, and he wanted them to play tougher. He questioned their toughness, and they've played some good tough defense here in the first half.
Well, they certainly have. And translating tough defense, they've gotten the spots, taken position away, particularly as we saw David Wesley do early against the post-ups. And really, they've been able to generate offense with their defense and rebounding. That's translated into fast break points. Right now, Houston leads 10-2 in fast break points. And I mentioned that they've been scoring 100 points of late 14 times in the last 36 games. And this is a team that averages only 94 a game.
Ball deflected. It's still going to be Houston ball with 3 on the shot clock. So Barry will take it out. Barry, Yao, Howard, Wesley, and McGrady out there. Yao, quick jump hook. And Howard showing his good leaping ability with a rebound. Terry. Finally a field goal for the Mavericks.
And if their half court isn't working, the job the Mavericks have to do is similar to what you just saw. Limit the Rockets to one and done, get out in transition, and try to use the athletes that they have and the shooters that they have.
McGrady with an easy move to the basket. What's keeping Dallas in the game is their defense. They've actually played some pretty good defense as well.
They have. It's been obviously the turnovers.
How about that? Bradley knocks it down. Sean Bradley with 4 points.
Well, I said he wasn't a post-up player, but I didn't say he couldn't score.
All those big guys love to go out there. McGrady and Juwan Howard. Offensive rebound does not get the roll. 9 offensive rebounds for the Houston Rockets here in the first half. Terry over Yao Ming, and suddenly the Dallas with an offensive explosion.
And they've been doing exactly what we just talked about a moment ago, limiting Houston Rockets to 1 out, get in transition. That time on the secondary break, Terry able to get free.
Terry with 10 points. Barry open. John Barry knocks down the 3.
Rotation much too slow to a guy like John Barry. Tremendous three-point shooter. 44% on the year.
Final minute of the first half.
So here's where Dallas gets bogged down in the half court.
Barry with the strip. Excellent help defense. And Wesley on the pull-up. Mavs on a mini run. Rockets answer right back. Armstrong. And that one was too easy.
Well, particularly on the breakdown. Again, it's in the fast break. Now Dallas is starting to recognize, even if they can't stop Houston, get it out of the basket and push the ball up the floor, try to beat the defense down.
Don Nelson has said he wants his team to push it more and more. That's one of the areas they missed Steve Nash in. He's excelled at that. McGrady stripped down low, gets it back somehow. Barry with another 3. And Yao Ming the rebound. Wesley blocked from behind by Armstrong, and Wesley perhaps not realizing the shot clock had turned off. But Armstrong with a bad pass. And that will end the first half for the Mavericks. A season low for points in the first half. Only scores 17 in the second quarter, and Don Nelson having to deal without his 2 top scorers. Coming up at the half, we'll go back to the studio, the Verizon Wireless Halftime Report with Mike, Bill, and Steve. We'll talk more about the Mavs and the Rockets. And then Al Michaels and Hubie Brown to preview the second game. Leading scorer in this game is Tracy McGrady with 16. He's with Jim Gray.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. 6 stitches in your chin. How is it?
Never had stitches on my face before. It was okay. Only thing that hurt was the needle going, and I hate needles, but I'm fine.
Let me ask you about the Mavericks. They're shooting 34% from the field. Has it been their poor shooting, or has it been better defense by the Rockets?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. I think we have our intensity up on the defensive end, making them take shots that they're uncomfortable with. I think most of their shots are contested shots, so and some of their shots just not falling because we're leaving them wide open at times. But I think for the most part, we got a hand up in their faces.
Finally, Tracy, how did the team react to Jeff Van Gundy questioning your guys' toughness?
Well, as you see, we got a 9-point lead going to halftime, so I think we came out with great intensity. We just got to keep it up second half.
Tracy, thank you. Appreciate
it.
All right. Back to you, Mike.
All right, Jim. The Rockets with some very tough defense here in the first half. Mavericks shoot 34% from the field and turn it over 10 times. But part of that is they're without their 2 top scorers, Dirk Nowitzki and Michael Finley. McGrady leading all scorers with 16 as the Rockets a 9-point halftime lead here in Houston.
Again, Tracy McGrady, 16 points in 19 minutes, and it's been an easy 16 points, except for getting hit under the chin. But he goes in, gets some stitches, and like the true pro that he is, come back and picks up where he left off. So Tracy McGrady, obviously one of those guys that Dallas has to make sure that they keep an eye on when they're back on defense.
And he let the game come to him, didn't force it. As you see, the leading scorer so far in the first half. Let's go to Jim Gray.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. Just spoke to Don Nelson, the Mavericks coach. He said, well, a little bit of a combination. They're better defensively than most people think, and we didn't shoot the ball very well. He said most of our offensive people, as you know, are out. He said, I got to tell you the truth. I'm pretty pleased with where we're at. I like the score. We're only 9 points down. We should be being blown out. We've got a chance at this one. As for Jeff Van Gundy, I spoke to him. He said too many turnovers. Didn't like the fact that they missed 5 free throws. And he said, however, they were a little tougher today. I've got a good group, and some of our defensive sets have been very good. Mike?
You know, when you look, Jim, at the shooting numbers, the rebounding numbers, the turnovers, they are very fortunate that they're only down by 9. Again, Nowitzki, without him, It was their lowest scoring first half of the season. Earlier this year, is Dirk taking advantage of the opportunity to eat? Earlier this year, in the only other game he missed, it was the lowest scoring overall half of the season. They only had 33.5 against Denver. So it just shows the importance of that, of what he's done this year.
Well, he's a go-to guy, and when your offense bogs down, you can go to Nowitzki at any point on the floor and to be able to get production out of him. But Jeff Van Gundy is right. The 10 turnovers is the one thing that's holding Houston back. Lost opportunities.
Some of the numbers for the Hurst from the first half. And the fast break points only 4 for Dallas. It's an area that Don Nelson wants him to push the ball more. Even after makes, he wants him to push it more. Yao Ming. And a backcourt violation. He's even smiling. There's another turnover.
I don't know. I think that was a grimace right there.
Well, there's a grimace.
The expressionless Jeff Van Gundy, but you know he's probably hoping that his big man realizes that he is a big man.
Although he said a week ago, talked about how his team, he doesn't like their toughness or lack of toughness, but he loves this team. He really likes the bunch of guys that he has. As Stackhouse now 0 for 7 from the field. And they needed him. We said it at the top end. They needed him to be a force offensively.
Well, he came into the game slumping, and he really hasn't done anything, obviously, to change that. But Jerry Stackhouse has the ability to get better shots. He's got to work at it.
Stackhouse has been bothered by a strained groin as Jason Terry. Terry got hot at the end of the second quarter. He now has 12 points to lead the Mavericks. Again for Houston, this is a big game because after this one, 4 games out west: Seattle, Phoenix, Sacramento, and Golden State, a team that's been playing much better recently. Foul called against Josh Howard.
Well, Josh Howard had that hard pick set on him by Yao Ming and obviously didn't like it. So he tried to make sure that Yao understands if he sets it again, he's going to get slammed. But Steve Jobs, he saw that, made the call. And if I'm Josh Howard, I talk to Sean Bradley and say, man, you got to step up and tell me that that screen is there.
And third foul, by the way, on Howard. Ball knocked out. 9 on the shot clock.
Take a look right here. Yao sets it, and Sean Bradley nowhere to be seen. And Josh Howard just trying to defend himself.
Yao just kept on playing. He used to getting whacked quite a bit. Shot clock down to 7. McGrady finding James. James not shy about shooting.
But when you're shooting as well as he has of late.
But he is a point guard with a scorer's mentality.
And there's the push right there. Makes or misses. Dallas has got to be able to push it up, get some of their athletes loose.
Terry. Pretty move from Jason Terry. As we said, Terry shooting 51% from the field this season, and he's 5 of 8 this afternoon.
Hello.
Tough jump hook, way off the mark, and Van Horn the rebound. So the Rockets struggling a bit right now. Problem with the clock. Leroy Richardson notices it right away.
Well, speaking of noticing some things, Yao Ming has to recognize that if he doesn't have the move right away, he knows the double team is coming. Take the double and find the open man. I mean, it's obvious elementary math. If you're being doubled, somebody's open. He's got the size and the passing ability when he's not getting too fancy to hit the open guy.
And just discussing what time to put back on the clock. So it's at 10:07. You know, in talking to Jeff Van Gundy yesterday about Yao Ming and his development, he came into the league, everybody so thrilled and his progress so good, and the progress is continuing. But so often, and this is a problem in all of sports in our society, in that you build a guy up and then all of a sudden you start looking about what he doesn't do. What he's done, he's a very good player. He's increased his scoring numbers again. He's increased his field goal percentage. The rebounding numbers down a little bit, but so are his minutes because of trouble. But he's really developing very, very well. Perhaps not as quick as some might want. But he's still on the perfect path.
But how much more and how much better can he get? I mean, you look at Shaq. Shaq is averaging a bit over 21 points or in that range. And, you know, the type of rebounding that Yao Ming does because of his helping, he's going to miss a few rebounds. I mean, I'd like those numbers as far as a big guy in this league. And, you know, if you look at the progress from his first to second year, that's when the major progress was made. After that, as he reaches the height of his potential, the progress is going to be slower and slower. So I think people are just finding something to carp about.
Bradley with the sweeping hook won't go. Even Jeff Van Gundy said he's not Shaq. He's not a great player yet, but he's a very good player and maybe one day a dominating player.
But statistically, he's comparable. And the bottom line for Yao Ming is that if he can cut out some of the mistakes that we've seen him make, some of the silly ones, if he can stay out of foul trouble, he's going to be that more effective. And again, that comes with experience.
He's only 24. 7-point lead for the Rockets. About 2.5 gone by here in the third. Good ball movement. And Howard can't finish. The other Howard with a rebound.
And that was an example of Yao. If he had stayed on that weak side and commanded it instead of moved towards the middle, he would have gotten the offensive rebound.
Oh, Stackhouse. Toughest shot of the afternoon for Stackhouse is the one he puts in. That's his first field goal. He's now 1 for 8. And how about this? It's a 5-point game.
Well, Dallas has been able to push the ball. They've tightened their defense a little bit, forced tough shots such as that. And again, you see them push it up, look for their secondary break opportunity. It's been their half court that's really gone flat at times for them in the first half, and that's what hurt them.
Dallas's defense has also done a solid job. Rockets shooting 40%. Terry off balance, and Jason Terry starting to come alive. An 8-0 run by the Mavericks, and it's a 3-point game.
Now, I mentioned it in the first half. When you lose a guy like Dirk Nowitzki and a guy like Michael Finley, you expect other guys to do just a little bit more. And if they do it in a collective, they're able to compensate.
Yao Ming, a moving screen, his second foul.
And look at the penetration by Terry. That was a nice play by a point guard to draw the defense and give Stackhouse a gap to drive.
Well, Dallas shot 34% from the field in the first half, but they've hit 4 of 6 here to start the third. Stackhouse, and Stackhouse finally gets a jumper to go.
All he needed was a little taste, make a couple baskets. Jerry Stackhouse, long known to be a streak shooter.
And a whistle beforehand. It's going to go against the Rockets, and all of a sudden this game has turned around on a 10-0 run by the Mavericks. Grayson McGrady picks up his third. And it's the second team foul.
And again, it's the Dallas defense tightening, another deflection, creating a loose ball situation, resulting in that foul.
Bradley trying to find Stackhouse, posting up Wesley. Wesley did an excellent job on him in the first half. Stackhouse just using his strength that time. Good play, and Dallas has regained the lead. Timeout, Houston. A 12-0 run by the Mavericks in a game where the first half, offensively, they had nothing.
NBA on ABC, brought to you by the all-new Toyota Tacoma. Now that's moving you forward. And America's Dairy Farmers and Milk Processors. Got milk?
The Houston Rockets scored the first 2 points of the second half. Since then, Dallas on a 12-0 run. And after trailing by as many as 13, they now have a 1-point lead. Jason Terry leading the way, Len.
Well, Jason Terry is the guy who's really established this momentum for Dallas. And it's really off the break, pushing the ball off the floor, catching the defense on its heels, and then his ability to create as he puts it on the floor and gets into the paint. And Terry is the guy, obviously, that the Rockets now have to extend their defense to guard, and that's really opened it up for Jerry Stackhouse on the inside. He's that reliable post-up player that I spoke of in the first half that Dallas needs. You know, we thought it might be one of the big guys, but no, it's Jerry Stackhouse. And with that inside-out combination, it's going to force Houston to make an adjustment defensively.
And you see Howard coming out on the floor. You see Terry as well. Terry, it's his first year in Dallas. He was acquired in the trade that saw Antoine Walker go to Atlanta. Dallas making so many deals in the offseason. Terry's first 5 years with the Hawks, playing on a lot of losing teams there in Atlanta. So you know he's pumped up about on a team that he knows is going to the postseason.
Well, that's added fuel. You know, you have professionals who play like professionals and try to give their best. But obviously when you're in a winning situation after being in a losing situation, it's fun to come to work every day.
McGrady, he'll agree with that after what happened in Orlando last year. McGrady knocks it down. And the Rockets back up by 1, 18 points for McGrady. Again, right to Stackhouse.
Right, because Wesley is staying on him. Obviously, the Rockets not yet willing to give up on David Wesley's defense, and that time a stop made it difficult as Stackhouse faded.
McGrady inside. Pretty setup from Tracy McGrady, and Yao Ming with his third field goal. It's still an area that the Rockets know they have to do better on, is finding Yao Ming, getting him the ball more.
And Yao has to be ready, and sometimes he's got to demand the ball. When he gets in a post-up situation, he can't be reticent to scream, "I got him." And I know he knows that in English.
Howard, nice feed again. And Bradley called for the foul. And Yao Ming will go to the free throw line for the first time this afternoon as Bradley picks up his second.
And you see McGrady obviously just drawing the defenses as Sean Bradley totally ignored Yao Ming. Just kind of hard to do.
Another thing I think about him, Len, is that I think next year you're going to see something, because this past summer he played all summer with the national team. Now we'll see our NBA calendar. Coming up next, Pistons and the Kings from Sacramento with Alan Newby. NBA TV Monday, Memphis in LA against the Clippers, and TNT Thursday, Minnesota and Miami, followed by the Lakers and these Mavericks. He played all summer with the Chinese national team, played in the Olympics in Athens, and then again Houston had to go back to China for the preseason, where he was involved in more things throughout the 2 weeks that he was there. I mean, they had him do every kind of appearance in his homeland, turnover from Van Horn. So he really did not have much of an off season to rest up.
Right, and all of that playing time and some of the other things, the appearances and whatnot, leave a guy a bit stale. You know, you're not fresh when you come back to training camp, and sometimes that type of experience of playing during the summer is kind of diminishing returns. He'd probably benefit from a little bit more rest.
Nice spin move, and Yao very aggressive in double figures with 10 points and 9 boards.
And like all young players, Yao Ming, for all of his accomplishment and all of his skill, he's still a confidence player. And he needs a couple of things to make him feel good about himself in a particular game. We saw it. McGrady helped him get off, and now he's doing it alone.
Stackhouse on the feed. Yao coming over too late, and it's back to a 5-point game. A bunch of runs. Mavericks had a 12-0 run. Rockets answered with an 8-0 run. And we're just past the midway point of the third with Len Elmore and Jim Gray. Mike Green on hand from the Toyota Center in Houston. Wesley inside trying to find Yao. Ball play broken up by Bradley. Wesley gets it back. Shot clock winding down. He throws it away.
Again, another mistake, getting up in the air, not having anything to do with it. Dallison switching to the zone right now, pretty effective in slowing down the Rocket attack.
And Bradley again from outside. So Bradley with 6 points, and Dallas within 3. Dirk Nowitzki enjoying the action.
That's right, Sean Bradley doing his Dirk Nowitzki imitation. Doing it well.
Daniels fights over the screen. Like he got hit. Wesley launches one.
So here's where you got to push the ball right now. Even though you had a 4-on-3 break, broken floor situation, now you start moving it, putting it on the floor, creating openings.
Now it's starting to leave their feet with nowhere to go. Stackhouse, bad move in traffic. And a turnover. Here's McGrady, one man to beat. It's Van Horn. And a blocking foul on Keith Van Horn. That will be his third. And free throws for McGrady.
Boy, I can't think of a more frightening scenario. You're back alone defensively, and you got Tracy McGrady bearing down on you. I guess the only thing to do is to try to take the charge, fall down.
Yes, he made a solid attempt there. Well, picked up the person. McGrady with his 7th and 8th free throw attempts of the game. And let's go over to Jim.
Mike, just been listening to you guys talk so much about Yao Ming, and a couple of weeks ago I had a chance to really sit down and talk to him quite a bit. People tend to forget the big cultural difference that this guy has gone through, too. There's a doctrine by Chairman Mao that has been ingrained in Yao's head since he was a little boy, and all the Chinese at his age. It's on the billboards. It's on the advocacies. It's in the textbooks. There's parents right there in the stands. They were part of it, too. The doctrine is friendship first, competition second. He has heard this forever and ever and ever. And then he comes over here, and the society and the culture is exactly the opposite. Competition is first. And I talked to him about it, and it's difficult for him. He doesn't want to dwell on it, but it is a very, very tough adjustment. He's getting better at it, but when people talk about his aggressiveness, it goes against everything in his nature that he has been brought up with. Mike?
You know, Jim, we talked to Jeff Van Gundy yesterday, and Van Gundy said a lot of people say he has to be meaner. He doesn't have to be meaner. He just has to play effectively.
Right, he's got to execute. You know, he's got to be in the right position defensively. He's got to know when to get his hands up. You know, he's got to block out. He's got to do a lot of things. People say that's tough. and mean, but all that is execution.
Or as Jim says, it's being aggressive. You have to be aggressive. As you say, sometimes when you're down low, call out, tell your teammates, demand the ball. And it is a big change for him. He's such a pleasant young man. And very, very unselfish.
Yeah, that's the key, and it's almost to a fault.
Daniels, nice shot, back to a 2-point game.
You know, the dominant big guys in this league throughout history have had a selfish streak where they post up and they get in a good position, they demand the ball, and they make it so that the guy who's passing the ball is afraid not to give it to him.
Right. James wide open for three. Won't go. Rockets 2 of 8 from 3-point range. Good transition defense from Houston.
Yeah, they got back quickly in that paint.
Terry spotting up. And Terry off the mark. Terry third in the NBA in 3-point shooting. Fred Hoiberg, Joe Johnson's 1 and 2. Ball deflected by Daniels. Still Rockets ball. Terry has benefited from playing with Dirk Nowitzki. That's why the shots, not as many open shots here this afternoon without Nowitzki on the floor.
You see, you got to match up kind of a 1-3-1. A lot of switching going on, trying to take away the jump shooters, but there are gaps that you can drive.
Nice drive from James, couldn't finish. Mutombo trying to keep it alive, but Henderson comes away. Mavericks got themselves right back into this game. Daniels, not a good shot. McGrady the rebound.
But Daniels took his eye off the basket looking for someone to pass to. And once again, up in the air, nothing to do with it. You wind up making a bad decision.
And thrown away. You know, I'm not like I'm overly trying to accentuate the positive here, but both teams have really played hard defensively this afternoon.
Well, it certainly has. They've dug in. They've made people, as we heard Tracy McGrady say before he went in for halftime, they've made people do things that they're not accustomed to doing. You know, you got a lot of guys out here trying to beat people off the dribble, which is really not their game.
Howard just flips one up there, and Wesley the rebound. You saw the turnover numbers. James gets it inside. McGrady blocked, but Terry was out of bounds when he touched the ball. And the Rockets will inbound, as we'll have timeout. Both teams have struggled a bit recently. Both teams could desperately use a win. Rockets led early, but the Mavericks coming back strong. Marquise Daniels in Dallas within 2. Just under 3 minutes remaining in the third. Dallas playing without Dirk Nowitzki, only down by 2, but Houston missing a key player for them. He's not an all-star, but he's one of those intangible guys. Bobby Sura, and he's with Jim Gray.
Mikey is indeed. In fact, he just told me he's been having his best season as a pro. Bobby, you've been out now with this back injury, missing your 5th game. How much longer will you be on the injured list before you return?
Well, I plan on playing our second game on the road trip in Phoenix on Friday night. I'm eligible to come off the list, and barring any setbacks, I should be ready to go.
And how is the back feeling?
It's feeling a lot better. I was able to practice yesterday and probably could have played tonight, but I think they put me on the injured list to keep me out a little bit longer.
Bob, there have been 6 point guards to run this team. You finally found the niche. How frustrating is it now to have to sit here and watch?
Yeah, having the kind of season I was having personally and the way the team was playing with the 8-game winning streak and then I get hurt, it's been frustrating, but we'll get back to that level once I'm back out there.
What do you think the prospects are for this team when you return as you look forward to the playoffs?
I don't think there's any doubt we can beat anybody. We got 2 great players in Tracy and Yao, and then we got guys to complement them. We'll be a handful in the playoffs.
And the addition of Mike James, you think does what?
Mike's a good scorer for us. He's going to put some points on the board as he has in the games he's been playing, so it's going to be a good addition for us.
Bob, as the point guard, it's kind of your responsibility to get everybody involved. What do you do to get Yao more aggressive? That seems to have been the theme here for a couple of years and continues this year.
Well, I'm always in his ear, as well as Tracy, to try to get those guys to play a little bit harder, play a little bit tougher, and kind of follow my lead out there.
Bob, we look forward to your return. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Back to you, Mike.
All right, Jim, for a team that at times has lacked some toughness, that's what he supplies for this club, and that's why he's missed so badly by the Rockets.
Well, it's passion, penetration, and rebounding. Those were Jeff Van Gundy's exact words. The things that they missed without Bob Sura in that lineup. 11 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists is what he does on a nightly basis, but those intangibles, the things that don't show up in the stat sheet, are immeasurable as far as this team is concerned. And interesting, the evolution of Bob Sura, when he got out of Florida State, he was known as a scorer, a guy who was a jump shooter. Didn't seem to be big on the toughness and the penetration, but as you get older, you start to understand where you fit on a particular team. And, he's done an excellent job here being the glue to chemistry for these Rockets.
Doing things to help teams win becomes more important than how many points you score as you get older. Here's Wesley knocks down the two-pointer. And the Rockets back up by 4. Wesley with 11 points. Coming up on a minute remaining here in the third. Van Horn calling for it. Back door, they go inside to Daniels. Block. Mutombo with good recovery.
Well, you got to know the big fella's lurking around somewhere. You got to make a quicker move to the basket.
One of the all-time shot blockers, and that ball hit the shot clock, deflected by the Mavs. So still Rockets ball with 15 remaining on the 24.
A 4-time NBA Defensive Player of the Year, the only person ever do that. He's still in the top 10 in blocks. And again, look at Daniels, just take his time. You got to go up strong. There's a double clutch. And when you double clutch, you're playing right into Mutombo's hands, giving him time to get over and position himself.
7 more blocks for Mutombo, and he'll be tied with Mark Eaton for 3rd place on the all-time list. Shot clock down to 8. Barry spotting up. John Barry can't hit the 3. And Armstrong rebound. Well, after a rough first half, the Mavericks coming back nicely here in the third. Mutombo with a rebound. Taken away, though, by Daniels. But he can't finish, and it's Rockets ball.
Well, Daniels almost affected a little payback on the big fella as Mutombo goes to the official and says, I'm holding it as hard as I can.
He's the 3rd oldest player in the league this year. Kevin Willis and Reggie Miller. Shot clock turned off as we wind down the 3rd period. Tracy McGrady having a good, solid all-around game. Mutombo wants the ball. Instead, Juwan Howard. Ball out of bounds with 1.2 remaining. Mavericks will have 1 shot at it. They go the length to the floor, and that's a bad play from Van Horn, so the ball will come all the way back. And Houston will inbounds on their own baseline with 1.2 remaining.
Well, you can tell Keith Van Horn didn't play much baseball. That thing just floated off the side of his hand.
They're going to put Bradley in to defend Yao Ming. There's Jeff Van Gundy trying to get Yao in for perhaps a lob.
Actually, I would put Bradley on the ball. That would make it more difficult. See, I think staying here doesn't make it any different for John Barry to throw the lob. But if you put Sean Bradley on the ball, then it becomes much more difficult for John Barry to even see in any lob situation.
Inbound McGrady, and an easy 2. Off the poor pass from Van Horn. And the Rockets take advantage. An excellent out-of-bounds play. And they'll go into the 4th quarter with a 6-point lead. Dallas got themselves back in the game. They trailed by as many as 13. Actually took the lead for a couple of minutes. But Tracy McGrady with 21. And the Rockets lead by 6. This presentation of the NBA on ABC will continue after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Themselves back into it.
Well, I think part of it was a hot start by Terry and Stackhouse. They got their team back in rhythm, established kind of an inside-out game, and the teammates kind of picked up on it. But the Rockets began to hold them at bay, even though the Dallas Mavericks made up 3 points. They did it again with defense. Dikembe Mutombo in the game in the 3rd quarter, 2 blocks. Dallas 1 of 8.
Speaking of defense, Wesley the steal, and Howard has the mismatch. Count it, and a foul. Daniels doesn't like the call, but Juwan Howard with a chance for a 3-point play. Daniels picks up his 2nd.
Well, there's some individual matchup situations that Houston wants to exploit, and that's one of them right there, the size of Juwan Howard and his experience in the paint, versus a guy like Marquise Daniels, who's more accustomed to playing defense on the perimeter.
And Daniels sits right down. They have Armstrong and Terry in the backcourt. Stackhouse playing the 3 with Howard the 4 and Henderson the 5. Want to learn more about international players like Yao Ming, Dirk Nowitzki? Check out FedEx Global Leaders of the Game only on NBA.com. Ball knocked out of bounds. Stay the same way with 15 on the shot clock. Yao Ming 10 points, 9 rebounds in this game, currently on the bench as Mutombo is in form. As Len Elmore said, Mutombo playing well.
Yeah, during that time he was in, only 1 made shot out of 8, with Mutombo rejecting and changing some minds.
Armstrong knocks down the shot with 2 on the shot clock. They like Armstrong because he pushes the ball, but he has shot so poorly at times this year. But he's one of those terrific locker room guys, plays with passion every game.
Well, he's in his 11th year, and it's so much tougher on guards because your legs are so important in that jump shot. And, you know, he's going to hit a wall during the course of the season, even though he keeps himself in great shape. Just can't help it.
Nice play from McGrady. It's off the foot of Armstrong, but Josh Howard, after that last play, instead of continuing the play, he turned and started arguing with Steve Jabby and completely missed the play.
Now, again, in his 2nd year, that's something that after you take a look at the tape in the locker room, I'm sure he's going to get a little talking to.
Wesley.
Again, trying to move the ball against this zone. You got to go inside out. Force the zone to shift, kick it back out for shooters, and attempts at the gap.
Howard had to throw it up as the shot clock was expiring. And Josh Howard comes the other way. Opening minutes of the 4th quarter, Rockets by 7. Stackhouse rushed it. And Mutombo with a rebound. Dikembe Mutombo with 13 solid minutes off the bench, 4 boards and 2 block shots. Barry finding Howard again. John Barry, long, and Howard tracks down the offensive rebound. That's the 12th offensive rebound for the Rockets.
And even though Barry didn't make that shot, that's the type of execution you want against the zone situation, inside out. Force the zone to turn and get it back out to the shooters.
The extra pass inside, and Howard is hammered. So Juwan Howard will shoot a couple. And Henderson picking up his first foul. Van Horn getting the start without Dirk Nowitzki. So Howard will shoot a couple.
Yeah, Keith Van Horn not really having the kind of day in replacing Dirk Nowitzki that he'd like. 3 of 9 from the field, only 5 points. You know, he's out there to score points, stretch the defense, and he's gotten the opportunities. Just hasn't been able to connect.
He's not used to playing big minutes. Hasn't for a couple of months with all the ankle problems. He's played 33 minutes this afternoon. When I say not used to it, it's because of just this year not used to playing big minutes. 9-point lead now for the Rockets. Every time the Rockets start to pull away, Dallas suddenly makes a little run and gets right back into it.
That's because they remember Jason Terry. They remember to push the ball.
Wesley with the block shot. Barry trying to find room, adjusts beautifully, and it's back to an 11-point game. Timeout for Dallas. And the defense of the Rockets picking up here to start the 4th.
Well, they certainly are. And again, Dikembe Mutombo is a big reason. He's been the anchor. He's made it very difficult in that paint.
Nearly 3 minutes gone by here in the 4th. John Barry, part of a strong bench for the Rockets, gives them back a double-digit lead.
Keith Van Horn replacing him, only 9 points. The 16 turnovers because of a swarming, smothering Rocket defense. And fast break points, Dallas never really able to get the ball off the board or really having the mind to push the ball up the floor. And conversely, the Rockets, not really a fast break team, getting all the fast break points they'd like.
Stackhouse for 3. Way off the mark. And here comes Wesley the other way.
And even though he had an opportunity, an advantage break situation, he slows it down and gets it into Tracy McGrady's hand.
Stackhouse has never been a good 3-point shooter. That's going to... Oh, Wesley saves it nicely. Almost a backcourt violation. Shot clock down to 5. Barry finding Mutombo, but he couldn't hold on. And here come the Dallas Mavericks.
Well, Houston again doing a nice job of getting back in the paint, taking away the break in their secondary break situation. And Van Horn still tough luck.
Van Horn 3 for 10 from the field. Chase knocks down the three. And the lead is ballooned to 14, the largest lead of the game.
We talk about all the skills Tracy McGrady has. That size played a role that time. A 6'1" Darrell Armstrong tried to come and bother him.
Terry comes back to end the 7-0 run. 20 points for Terry, who's come alive in the second half.
I mean, if I'm Jason Terry now, I'm looking for my shot every opportunity and then adjusting to what the defense does if it means I had to get somebody else open.
McGrady forces that one, but Juwan Howard with the offensive rebound. And officials blow the whistle. Timeout called. So Jeff Van Gundy wanted to talk things over. His team's had a couple of double-digit leads. Dallas keeps fighting back. Right now, the 12-point advantage for the home team. Conference teams from the state of Texas here in Houston as the Rockets leading the Mavericks 71-59. Right now with the Western Conference standings, Dallas in the 4th spot and Houston currently in the 6th spot. Houston has one of the most difficult remaining schedules in the entire NBA, starting with that 4-game West Coast trip with Phoenix and Seattle, Sacramento, and Golden State. Dallas just needs to get healthy, and Houston needs to get Bobby Sura back.
Well, Bobby Sura mentioned that he's going to be playing on the road trip. Couldn't come at a better time for Houston, but it's all about getting that last taste of home cooking. You know, these are the games, especially when you got a team down without the 2 best players, you got to be able to put them away.
The Rockets have had problems in the 4th quarter. They've blown some big leads as McGrady gets inside. But McGrady now with 26 points and a lead back to 14. And a foul on McGrady down the other end. That's his 4th. First team foul against the Rockets.
And then just a sign that Tracy McGrady's so integrated into this Rocket attack, doesn't really have to step out too often and take it upon himself. You know, 26 points, 10 rebounds, another double-double, and it's the quietest double-double I've seen in a long time, and that's a tribute to McGrady and to the system.
He has not forced the action at all. You saw the bandage. If you're just joining us, he'd received 6 stitches earlier after getting caught in the chin. Bradley from outside, and that's not what you want. If you're Dallas, that is.
If you're 7'6", too, it's setting up. Here on the Rockets offensive end, again, McGrady just tight roping that baseline and gets past Sean Bradley. Just shows you so much. Just saw him inside, now he saw his ability outside. McGrady. Size, range, and ball handling.
8 points here in the 4th quarter, 29 for the game, and this is the largest lead, courtesy of this 13-2 run. Jason Terry can't connect, and Mutombo another rebound.
And now Jason Terry finds himself having to force things because he can't get any offense from anyone else. No one else on his team, I believe, is in double figures.
Shot won't go, but a foul. A couple of guys have, he's one with 9, Van Horn, and Daniels with 8, but he is the only one. In what has so far been the lowest scoring game for the Mavericks this season. Their previous low was 80. And they're going to have to do a lot of scoring to get to that.
And Mike, you've done a lot of NBA games and you've done a fair amount of Dallas games. When's the last time you looked at this point in the game and only one guy in double figures for a team that's such a high-scoring team?
59 points they get in the first half sometimes, and here we have a little over 6 minutes remaining. But as we continually say, not only is Nowitzki out, but Finley's out as well. And as you know, Stackhouse has not played well, 4 for 14, but he's not 100% with his groin injury. They've been banged up quite a bit. No sympathy from other NBA teams. It's part of the NBA season. And a foul called against the Rockets. Mike James called for his 3rd.
That's right. The Mavericks have oftentimes been the hammer, rarely been the nail in situations like this.
And by the way, we also haven't talked much about Eric Dampier. Dampier, one of their big offseason acquisitions. And, you know, he's more there for defense, but their defense and his presence in the middle and shot blocking ignites their offense.
Well, that's true. 9 games without Eric Dampier, and this being the 10th, they've been out-rebounded by 4 or more. You know, and giving up 103 or more points.
Ball loose, couldn't finish. He's still got a couple of weeks, Dampier, to go before he returns. So 3rd block from Mutombo down the other end. He's 5 away from tying Mark Eaton. Padgett. Good stroke from Padgett, and the Rockets pulling away. A 21-point lead with 5.5 remaining. The Rockets here in this fourth quarter, 19-4. Stackhouse can't hit. And again, Stackhouse is not a good three-point shooter.
And again, it's one and done. Dallas not competing on the offensive glass. When you know you're not hitting shots, you got to make a concerted effort to get people into the paint.
Dallas hanging tough for a long stretch, but just too shorthanded offensively as McGrady can't hit. Stackhouse releasing down the other end and blows the layup. That's one of the reasons they're shooting 36% from the field this afternoon.
And again, not to make excuses for Jerry Stackhouse, but you mentioned it, Mike, coming back from a right groin injury, you know, probably feeling still a little tender. That's something he normally would have done.
Mike James lets it fly. Mutombo's jumping around like a young fella out there. Van Horn. And Keith Van Horn hits a three. 12 points for Van Horn. And the only other player besides Terry in double figures, but it's still an 18-point deficit. You like McGrady's game this afternoon, the way he's approached it.
Yeah, again, he hasn't played outside of that system. He's made some mistakes, taken some quick shots, but more than anything else, you know, he's gotten other people involved, which makes it easier for him when everybody else is clicking.
He's got 4 assists. Mutombo with another block. That's his 4th of the game. He's slow getting up, but he's appreciative of the ovation.
And you can tell he's matured as well, as I mentioned. 4-time NBA Defensive Player of the Year, block shots now without the finger wag.
Dikembe Mutombo, at 38 years old, giving Yao Ming a long rest this afternoon. Mutombo playing 19 minutes, 7 rebounds, and 4 block shots.
And we talked about the Houston defensive effort, particularly in the third quarter, when they pushed out this lead. It's all been the big fella.
Mike Bibby's averaging 19.6. You see that? That's a career best. But he scored 25 points a game in the last month. He and the Kings take on Detroit coming up next. Mike and Len.
Back in Houston, the Rockets leading the Mavericks 80-62 with just over 3.5 remaining here in the fourth quarter. It's been all Rockets here in the fourth.
And it's again been keyed by their defense and some bad decisions by Dallas. Quick shots, inability to cover the offensive glass. And I talk about bad decisions. Again, a 7-6 guy shooting a bunch of threes. But you can't take anything away, again, from the terrific job Houston has done on both ends of the floor. When they needed it, able to execute offensively, but the constant has been the defense.
19-7, the score here in the fourth quarter. Dallas hung tough for a while, but now the subs have come in. Devin Harris comes in, the rookie. Also, DJ Benga, the rookie from the Congo, a 7-footer. He's also in. Yao Ming back in. Blocked for the goaltend from Benga. "12 points, 9 rebounds for Yao Ming. 4 of the 5 starters in double figures, and James had 9. And Armstrong throws it away. 17th turnover. And Mutombo getting a rest.
Well, again, Benga just left Yao Ming and tried to recover quickly. And his teammates are going to start looking for him now. It's still about confidence building.
McGrady and 1. Tracy McGrady putting a bit of an exclamation point on this fourth quarter.
Well, we don't need any confidence building on Tracy McGrady's part. He knows what he's about. Take a look at the drive right here. Once again, getting up in the air, not knowing what to do with it. Most guys would have tried to look for passes, but Tracy McGrady knows where he is at all times.
He's got 32 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists. But I'm sure the thing Jeff Van Gundy will talk about most after this one in terms of what he's happy about is the defense. Marquise Daniels knocks down a 2.
And for Dallas, again, with the guys out on the floor, with the injuries that have occurred, it's an opportunity for Don Nelson to have his guys build chemistry, because there will be more than one opportunity when he'll have to have young players out on the floor.
Henderson picks up his second foul. 14 fouls, and McGrady is done for the afternoon. Played 40 minutes. And had the 32 points and 10 rebounds. Another strong game for McGrady. Another strong game against Dallas. And this game could be important in terms of for the Rockets. We still have a ways to go. This will even the season series at 2-2. Dallas had won the first 2 games. The road team had won 2 of the first 3. But they'll finish their season series top 2-2. So now all 5 starters for the Rockets in double figures. Look at Yao on the perimeter, helping out.
Well, that's one of the things you talk about execution. One of the things he needs to continue to do: step up, help out, recover. You know, move your feet on defense. He's an athlete. He's not just a big guy in there who's slow moving. He can get around.
Armstrong can't hit. And Yao Ming with a double-double. That's his 10th rebound. The starting front court for the Rockets: McGrady, Juwan Howard, and Yao Ming, all with 10 rebounds apiece. Now, because of some foul trouble, Yao Ming has not played as many minutes recently. So Jeff Van Gundy probably keeping him out there, getting him this time, even though the game's over. Just conditioning and getting him to continue to play hard and get in shape.
And coming out of that timeout, you can tell there was a concerted effort to get Yao to execute defensively, because you remarked him stepping out there on the screens and hedging. You know, those are the things that he may not normally do.
Meanwhile, fan favorite Moochie Norris is back in. Norris just obtained from the New York Knicks. That played here prior and was always a fan favorite. As Ryan Bowen knocks it in. Mr. Hustle off the bench, Ryan Bowen. And the lead is up to 24, the largest of the game, as the Rockets with a very impressive fourth quarter. Armstrong rattles in a 3.
And that's another reason, again, for this extended period of time for the guys off the bench for Dallas. You know, Darrell Armstrong, a terrific shooter, as you mentioned. Maybe this will be a chance for him to kind of get back on the mark as far as his shooting capability is concerned.
He's been struggling all season. Just has not been able to hit a lot of shots.
Of late, he hadn't even been looking at it. In the last 5 games, he's only taken 5 shots from the field.
Oh, Yao Ming! And he took a shot in the face after a pretty move. 14 points for Yao Ming. That's the only thing you worry about, obviously, in a situation. You want him to get the minutes as Daniels flips it up, but you hate to see him get hurt in a situation. And here's Mike James. Bowen can't finish. A little playground action going, Len.
Everybody's trying to get their numbers.
And Henderson knocked it out of bounds with 55.9 seconds remaining.
Again, a nice move on the screen and roll. Little up fake, and I told you, he's an athlete. He's got good footwork. He does take that shot there, but if you're a coach, if your guy's playing hard, the odds of injury are reduced. It's when you start to relax that there comes a chance that you might get hurt.
Well, he relaxed on that play, and Daniels with the steal, and then Moochie Norris on the reach-in. This will be by far the lowest point total of the season for the Dallas Mavericks. Their prior lowest was 80. That was in a loss at San Antonio back in November. But Don Nelson, I don't know if he had high expectations today without Nowitzki and without Finley.
Well, at one time, according to Don Nelson, as he spoke to Jim Gray at the halftime, he said he liked where they were, only 9 down. And I was about to say that's Nelly, the eternal optimist. But they made a little bit of a run, but just didn't have enough. And again, they're going to have to regroup. Hope that Dirk Nowitzki can play in the next game, but more importantly, they're going to have to find other ways to score.
Paget blocked by Henderson. As we wind down, what was a fourth quarter rout for the Rockets. They outscore Dallas 29-14 here in the fourth quarter. And a big home win for the Rockets. As they'll go on the road, Tracy McGrady leading the way with 32 points and 10 rebounds. Dallas just not enough firepower without Dirk Nowitzki, their leading scorer and rebounder. And some problems continue for the Dallas Mavericks, who've now lost 4 of their last 5. Let's go to Jim Gray.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. Tracy McGrady had 32 points today. The team has been somewhat inconsistent. You won 8 in a row, then you lost 4 or 5. To win today, a game you should win without Nowitzki and so forth, what will it mean to the Rockets?
Well, this win means a lot. It gives us confidence. We got 4 games on the road coming up, and it's a real crucial road trip for us. So this game really means a lot. It should give us confidence going out on the road for those 4 games.
What about this road trip? 158-71 is the combined records of the teams that you'll face in those next 4 games. Will you find out a lot where you are in this next 4 games?
Well, we're sure going to find out a lot about ourselves, and how bad we really want to get to the playoffs, and how bad we really want to have success in this last push of the season. So we definitely got our work cut out for us. It's a challenge for the team, and we should be up for it.
The message of trying to get tougher, is that starting to resonate with this team?
Well, we're trying to, it's this word out that we're soft, and, we got so many nice guys. We go out, we play hard. We don't worry about all the talk. We know what we're capable of doing. We're capable of beating any team, regardless of if we're too nice, too soft, whatever. We can play with the best of them in this league, and we just got to go out and prove that.
All right, Tracy, congratulations. Thanks for your time.
All right, thanks.
Back to you, Mike.
Jim, they played tough defense today. Plus 17 in the rebounding department, and they take advantage of the Mavericks, who are without their 2 leading scorers. So the final score, the Rockets 90 and the Mavericks 69. Coming up, we'll go back to the studio in New York with Mike Tirico, Bill Walton, and Snapper Jones. For Len Elmore, Jim Gray, and our entire ABC crew, this is Mike Breen saying so long from the Toyota Center in Houston.